It was no question that in the late 1990s, punk had suddenly found itself revitalized completely by the likes of major hit bands such as Sublime, Green Day, and Blink-182, amongst many other bands as well. Punk was just getting started, as attested to what happened in the early 2000s with the rise of pop-punk bands, there's way too many to count. Good Charlotte. I'm going to throw that in there because they were my first and one of my favorites. But anyway, sandwiched almost in those times was a song and a band, of course, that it's very hard to describe to people if you don't know this song. But if you know it, you know exactly the energy that I'm talking about. Because about a month or two ago, I released a video about another kind of hit ska song at the time called The Impression That I Get by the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. And this song is almost its twin brother. You know, kind of coming out around the same time, maybe a little younger brother. But this song is All My Best Friends Are Metalheads by the band Less Than Jake. Now, Less Than Jake at that time were not new. They had been around for, I'd say, 6 or 7 years. And they had made a few albums. They were starting to gain some traction, but they weren't quite there yet. And of course, they were riding that wave of the rise of punk. And even around that time period, you know that ska also was making a comeback. Sad to say, it was short-lived. I know, don't hate me for saying it, but you know it's true. Hey, maybe one day it'll come back for a third time. I'm all for it. But they decided to make another album, of course, and it was to be called Hello Rockview. Now, their drummer was the one who penned a lot of their songs along with their not even one but two lead singers. And the drummer wrote that song and the album name based off of a friend that he had that had just been in and out of prison. The whole album is almost told in a chronological order of the friend going through a period of time of his life in about 4 years, I believe it was. And like I said previously, the song All My Best Friends Are Metalheads is right near the beginning of that album. And the lyrics to it are just absolutely amazing because even before the song itself kicks off, there is a recorded introduction to that song. Now, it's interesting because there's two different versions actually of that recorded intro. One of them is a stoned kind of sounding kid rambling about how punk music belongs on Mars, which was actually from a documentary. And the main one, the one that a lot of people know, is a clip from a speech from Victor Lundberg. The speech itself was called An Open Letter to My Teenage Son. And that one fits the song very well because the father talks about how their generation judged people based off of their belief or the color of their skin, and that it wasn't right about how 90s kids were being judged during that time period, specifically the ones that were following the punk rock scene. They were all seen as metalheads, as what is described in the title. Now, the lyrics to it is very self-reflective, you know. It's almost like somebody that's not trying to outright yell at somebody to change their beliefs. It's like they're slowly trying to warm them up or convince them. Kind of just taking a look at yourself and your own actions and how you treat and view other people. You know, it was very simple. And the lyrics themselves just kind of loop back around and go through it a second time, almost to just reiterate the point. You know, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you didn't get it the first time, you're going to get it the second time. And to this day, it is, I dare say, the biggest Less Than Jake song. It is their number one hit. I know Less Than Jake fans. Trust me, I know, because I was just at their concert earlier this year. I know the Science of Selling Yourself Short is amazing. Look What Happened is amazing. Their follow-up album to this album had more singles on it and was more commercially successful. But I would argue that Hello Rockview is like the most sacred thing to Less Than Jake fans. So I don't know. Fight me on that. I love Anthem as much as the next person. But that is what I believe. Now, the music makeup of the song, like any other ska band, you have your horn section mixed in there with your four-piece band. Now, Less Than Jake, as I said before, has two different singers to their band as well. It's not just one. And they really kind of share responsibility. It's Chris and Roger, along with other band members, Matt, JR, and Buddy. And they are just an unbelievable band. They have their saxophone player. You got your trombone player as well, who just absolutely does an amazing job. And they've been with many different labels. They were on the Fueled. I believe they're still on the Fueled by Ramen label, but they really just bounced around, and they've just kind of kept a low profile. They're just really big on just entertaining their fans. That's why I like to put them on this indie list, on this channel, because they really could have gotten bigger. And there are so many bands that broke into the mainstream, especially pop punk bands, because like I said in the introduction, that time period was almost perfect for them to blow up, and All My Best Friends Are Metalheads really got them there. Now, while, of course, it didn't break like the top 10 singles in the country or anything at that time, that is true. But it did break in the top 100. I know that kind of sounds like not a big deal, but what's really cool, though, is kind of looking back at it now. I forget which music magazine rated it, but I believe it definitely broke the top 100 punk bands anthems of all time. And I believe it was listed in kind of like this cool ranking of like most recognizable ska bands songs. I believe it broke the top 20. So quite a cool thing to kind of get there. And I mean, I'm all for it. I absolutely love this song. It's like even one of my top 10 favorites to this day. It's just absolutely amazing. And it's so short. You almost have to listen to it twice every single time that you listen to it. Please, please, please listen to it if you have not heard it before. I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. And really, how I want to end this video is kind of the fallout. What happened to Less Than Jake afterwards. And like I hinted at a little bit in the middle of this video, Less Than Jake, it really stinks because they were just in between these two periods of time, where it was the early days of like Blink and Green Day. So they weren't really that punk. They didn't really fit in there. They definitely weren't grunge. And then also they didn't get into the pop punk of, who would I mention? Goldfinger, Good Charlotte, Yellowcard, where those guys just completely, even they broke the top 10, during their time period. And they just kind of didn't fit into that crowd either. Definitely not into the days of like Fall Out Boy and beyond, Panic at the Disco and so forth. So they, unfortunately, I don't know what it was, but you know what? After seeing them live, after doing research on them and seeing their videos, they seem very happy with where they're at. So cheers to them. Please listen to the song if you haven't listened to it before, and I will check you guys next time. Bye.